Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Strange Pathways. I am your host, Scott Mort. I hope you're having a wonderful week. Happy 4th of July to all of our American listeners. And because of that, since I am in America, probably more than once during this, you're going to hear a lot of two things. You're going to hear a lot of fireworks. For that, I apologize in advance. And you're also going to hear a lot of motorcycles. I live in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. A huge part of our culture here, unfortunately, is motorcycles. Now, if you love motorcycles, I've got nothing against that. But sadly, they are quite loud. They are quite loud. Honestly, it's a little frustrating. If my car was this loud, I would be pulled over and given a ticket. If motorcycles are this loud, it's okay. A little bit of a double standard, but it is what it is. That is part of our culture. I apologize. Thunder in the Valley is just wrapping up here in Johnstown, and I apologize in advance for all the extra noise you're going to be hearing this episode. But I have got 3 amazing tales. Always 3. 3 amazing tales for you this week. Let's go ahead and get started. Our first tale is going to take us all the way back to 1975, Oyster Bay, New York. This is kind of an odd one. This comes from Jerome Clark. His book, Unexplained Strange Sightings, Incredible Occurrences, and Puzzling Physical Phenomena. There is one Tom Deere Cole. He's a Garden City junior high school science teacher, and he wakes up on this beautiful morning. Tom Deere Cole, he steps out of his home. He's about to get into his car whenever he looks above his Oyster Bay home, and there's this small, very small, dark cloud floating just slightly above. Now remember, Derek Cole, he's a man of science. He's a science teacher. And he's really kind of interested in this. It starts to move a little bit, and as he watches this cloud, it gets slightly larger. It's about basketball sized, and it floats back and forth across the peak of the roof. It's changing in shape from a small globular mass to kind of this ovoid, and it finally becomes this abstract, multi-curved, vaporous thing. At the end of this, it's measuring about 6 feet high, 1.5 feet wide. It's at this point that the cloud does something that no cloud ever does. It opens its mouth and inhales. Let me say that again. This dark cloud, it opens its mouth and inhales. Now, at this point, the cloud has taken notice of Derek Cole. It purses its lips and spits an amazing amount of water down on Tom Deere Cole and his car. Tom Deere Cole is drenched, and he's just standing there, stunned. Just absolutely stunned. Who wouldn't be? A cloud just formed lips and spit on him and his car. Now, once again, we are talking a man of science. This cloud dissolves right in front of him. Almost as if, like, the vapor, the moisture was used up in the cloud. And it was just used to drench the man and his car. So this man of science, he runs into his house and he bags the t-shirt. He bags the t-shirt. This is the only real evidence that he has that anything ever happened. He changes into some dry clothes and he goes to his laboratory at Garden City Junior High School. He runs a pH test. Not a difficult thing to do. You can either use probes. 1975, they're probably using litmus paper at the time. The pH of this is found to be 7. Meaning that whatever it is, it's just water. It's just water. I have to believe Tom de Urkel saw what he saw. As strange as it is, as odd as it is, I have to believe he saw what he saw. What did he have to gain from this story? He didn't have a single thing to gain. But being that he was a Garden City high school teacher, a science teacher, this man had a lot to lose. He was brave to step forward with it, honestly. Lot to lose, very little to gain. In my research, I did find, sadly, Tom de Urkel. He did pass away June 18th of 2008. My sincere condolences go out to his family. I'm impressed. I'm impressed by Tom's bravery of coming forward and talking about this amazing encounter. Tom, thank you for coming forward. I hope you're at peace. I hope where you're at now, you are happy. Our second tale comes to us all the way back from 1951, Paarl, Cape Town, South Africa. We're looking in on a British instrumentation engineer who's going by the name H.M. H.M. has been driving up this mountain called Draguignan. It's about 7 miles from Paarl. And he's turning back when this man appears. This man looks to be about 18, 19. He's waving his arm. He's trying to get the H.M.'s attention to stop the car. H.M. does stop the car, winds down the window and says, "Can I help you?" The man goes, "Have you any water?" Now, H.M. doesn't. The man responds, "You see, we need water." H.M. says, "Well, get in. I'll take you to this stream." The man goes, Is this far?" "No, quarter of a mile. So, the young man gets in the car. H.M. doesn't really have too much to keep water in, but he does have an oil can. So he goes, "Look, I know this is kind of dirty, but this is all I've got for water." The young man says, "That'll be all right." When they get back, they get the water, they drive back. When they get back, the young man points towards the mountain. And there's this area on the mountain that's darkened in shadow. The young man says, "There, please go there." H.M. drives into the shadows. And that's whenever he sees, about 100 yards from the road, a lenticular object with squarish windows around its radius. It's standing on 2 broad feet. This object is about 35, maybe 50, maybe all the way up to 50 feet in diameter, around 13 feet high. Now between the supports, there's a flight of steps going up to an opening. HM is absolutely stunned. I think we all would be. But the man, he gets out of the car, runs over, and he kind of looks at HM, waves him over, saying, come on in. HM, yeah. HM gets out, goes up the steps, and he's standing in the doorway. He sees this circular bench that runs all around the circumference. And in the center of this craft, there's an array. There's about 8 of these hand levers, about 3 feet long, and they're projecting from this rectangular box on the floor. Each one of these levers kind of ends in a fork, like an old handbrake. Think if you will, the brake on the handle of a bicycle, where it's like the actual handle itself, and then the lever that you squeeze. Now, instead of having that on handlebars, have that on a solid shaft, like one straight shaft. That's what HM is seeing. Now, beyond these levers is this odd object. He said it kind of looked like an upright piano. No dials, no instruments were visible. But he got the feeling that this was an instrument panel. White light was everywhere. But there were no bulbs. There was no visible source of this white light. Inside this craft, 4 more men. One of them was lying on the couch. The young man that HM picked up, he tells HM, my friend's been burned in an accident. Please don't go near him. He'll be okay. It was just a small accident. HM kind of looks around. He realizes that all these men were short. Around 5'3", 5'5". I know that. I live that every day. I'm 5'5". I don't have a UFO, though. These men all wore belted beige laboratory gowns that went below the knees. They had trousers on, shoes. They totally ignored HM, though. It was like HM wasn't even there. So the young man that HM had picked up, he gives these other men the water. And HM goes, do you guys need me to go get a doctor? And they said, no. But you've been very helpful. Do you have any questions? HM takes this opportunity. He goes, where are the engines? And they go, we don't have any engines. The young man points at the levers and he said, we nullify gravity. That's how we rise. Shades of Bob Lazar, Area 51, Element 115, right? So HM asks the young man, how is this done? And they said, we use a very heavy fluid, which circulates in a tube at near light velocity, creating a magnet. Now we're talking stuff like Die Glocke, the Nazi bell, with red mercury counter-rotating. Right? All this stuff is checking off a lot of boxes in my head. They tell More to the point, the others are ignoring HM, and the young man tells HM that these fluids circulate in a tube at near light velocity, creating a magnet. And HM goes, that's impossible. The young man says, no, it's simple. When the fluid is leaving the tube, it is already entering at the other end, so its relative speed is infinite. What's the next obvious question? Where do you come from? The young man just points at the sky and says, from there. HM tries to get specifics. He's not getting any answers. That's from there is as specific as it gets. 15 or 20 minutes goes by. The young man points towards the door and goes, it's time for you to leave. This whole encounter took about 45 minutes. HM goes home, but he can't get it out of his head. So he decides the next day, I'm going to go back. He goes back to the spot where he saw the craft, and he finds some strange marks. And he starts to write everything down. These men's bodies and faces, they were normal. Maybe they had high foreheads. Their hair was all short and chestnut colored. Delicate hands. If you'd seen these men on the street, you would just look at them and go, oh, that's a short man, and be done with it. Once again, I have to stress, just like with our first case, with the Sky Spitter, H.M. was a man of science. He was an engineer. What did he have to gain from this? Nothing. What did he have to lose? Everything. In fact, H.M. had kept this secret for a great many years. He eventually told this to Juan Jose Benitez, a UFO investigator. H.M. kept the story secret, not telling anyone for over 25 years. 1951, spring of 1951 was whenever this occurred, and it wasn't until 1977 that he told his story to Juan Jose Benitez. HM happened to be in Spain doing work for a Spanish business. Never divulged this. Think about that for a second. 25 years he kept this secret. I sometimes wonder, whenever I'm walking down the street, going grocery shopping, how many of the people that I pass, that I interact with, that I just kind of look over and lock eyes with for a second, how many of them have absolutely amazing stories, and they're just too afraid to let anyone know? How many people have gone to the grave with incredible tales? Maybe tales that hold some sort of grand clue that would help solve this perplexing mystery of ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, other cryptids. Because I honest to God believe that they are all interlocked. Bigfoot and UFO seen together a lot, especially in my area, in Pennsylvania, in the Chestnut Ridge. Bigfoot and UFOs go hand in hand. And if you see a light in the sky that's floating, that's a UFO. But if you see a light inside of a house that's floating, that's a ghost. We are dealing with, I am convinced, the same phenomena acting in different ways. I will listen to you. I will give you complete anonymity if you want. I will listen to you. Get these stories out there to somebody. If not me, to somebody else. Stan Gordon, Google that man. Stan Gordon has an amazing collection of stories. Dare I say, I don't believe any other man has done more in Pennsylvania for research into the unknown. If you look into what he did in the late 60s and 70s, it's almost the plot of Ghostbusters, where he sets up a business to investigate the amazing, incredibly large amount of weird phenomena going on in the area. Please don't let these stories be hidden. The answer is out there somewhere. And it may be in that story that you're hiding from everyone. I have to tell you, I am really, really excited to talk about this case. Every once in a while, I will hear about a case, and I'll just shelve it. And I'll do a search for it, and nothing comes up. And then I find one little slice of information, and it opens the floodgates entirely. So a little bit of background on this. There is a podcast I absolutely adore. They don't do episodes very often, but whenever they do, they're pure gold. It's the What If podcast with Spencer Worth Davis and Ryan Copperrood. Absolutely a joy to listen to. An absolute joy. They told of this encounter that happened in 1973. And I reached out to them, and they said, well, we got it from, we don't remember where exactly we got the notes from, but it was this page. And they sent me the link. God bless them. They sent me the link. And what they sent me, it was like, imagine if somebody said, I've got the story you're looking for, and then hands you a pile of 50,000 stories. And they went, we saw it in here someplace. That's what they handed me. That was, oh man. It was like asking for a piece of chocolate and getting a Hershey's factory. It was a joy, but it took me a while to find it. Everything that I Googled brought no real results. And then finally, just by pure luck, I was looking about this town called Draguignan in France. There was a lot of UFO reports, and there it was. The case that they talked about, I think the episode was entitled, What If a Little Alien Vacuumed Our Garden? And I've talked about almost every other case in that episode, but please go listen to that episode. Fantastic. It'll have you smiling from ear to ear. Funny guys. Really funny guys. But this one case eluded me, and now I have found it. This is from Flying Saucer Review, 1974, Volume 20. This is going to take us back, like I said, to Draguignan. Around 8:30 p.m., Friday, October 19th, 1973. This man and his girlfriend, man's name is Gabriel Demogue. Now, they're traveling on motorcycle. And they're going up this road leading to the top of a small mountain. The mountain is known as Les Mallemont, which I find extremely interesting. David Paulides talks about the cases that he investigates. They happen in places where it's like Dead Man's Gulch, Hell's Half Acre, Devil's Mountain, things like that. La Mallemont. Whenever you translate it from French, it's the evil mountain. Now, La Mallemont, it's a few miles north of Draguignan. The height of its peak, 507 meters. The view up there is incredible. You can see as far as the Mediterranean. There's mountains. It is beautiful. So I understand why they were going up there. The girl sees to her left, though, this orange-yellow ball that's surrounded by a lighter colored halo. And it's traveling along with them. The halo, it's not all around the ball. The halo, it's kind of like the ring of Saturn. It's traveling around the ball, right? It's not mixed in. It's around it. Now, they stop and they watch this object. It's moving from west to east. Not really that high. Not that far away from them. Maybe half a kilometer. The size of the central ball, it's about the size of a watermelon. This is flying above the southern face of the Mallemont, and then it goes beyond the crest. But they can still see the glow coming from it. There's this red glow coming from this craft. It's visible through the trees. Gabrielle's girlfriend does not want to go on, so he takes her back. But after he drops her off, he meets a friend. And he says, we saw something up there so strange. His friend's very interested in UFOs. So his friend decides to call a bunch of his friends. And they get together and they go up La Mallemont in 2 cars. Now, the first car is an R8, driven by one Alain Lecca. His passenger is the second unnamed man. The other car is a Fiat 128. It's driven by Georges Maquet, and Christian Benza is the passenger. Now, they reach the top of this mountain. They go through this very narrow road. Smartly, they turn the cars around just in case they have to beat a steady retreat. They switch off their lights. Now at the top of this mountain, there are a couple of benches for visitors. They go over to the benches, and pretty soon their eyes become accustomed to the darkness. They start to notice this white glow about 80 meters from where they're at. Their eyes are becoming more accustomed. But just as eyes get accustomed to dark, your ears will get accustomed to the lack of sound. And pretty soon, this group is hearing strange sounds coming from the glow. They couldn't really describe the sounds. How could you? You're hearing something you've never heard before. But they said it kind of sounded like radio interference. But that's about as exact as they can get. It's not good enough, but it's close. Now, Georges Macret, he stooped over the table, and he feels that table grow hot, and he feels a wave of heat passing through him. Those that are with him, they feel that instant rise in temperature as well. That's whenever they see a red light just below the white glow. The red light descends. It's coming down on a stony track leading from the summit to the table. And they're hearing pebbles being displaced. They're hearing little tiny rocks move, the crunching of gravel. Someone very large is coming down this path. Georges Macret, Christian Benza, Alain Lejga, the unnamed fourth man. They're scared. They're scared. Now, Georges, Christian, and the unnamed man, they take cover behind a wall downhill from the table. Alain lies down on one of the benches. They're watching that red light come down the path. And then they see the silhouette. 3 meters high. That's about 9 feet. 3 meters high. This weird modulated whistle can still be heard. The silhouette gets about 25 meters away from them, which is about 20 meters away from Alain Lejga's R8 car. This 3 meter tall figure stops. It stoops down. Looks like it's picking something up. About half a minute later, it stands back up. And that red light, this figure is carrying a red light on its waist. That red light goes out. The whistling stops. There's nothing but darkness. Nothing but silence. Then they hear branches being broken near the R8 car. And they hear the car itself being shaken back and forth. They panic. They panic. Something huge and otherworldly is trying to destroy one of their means of transportation. They are scared. They've been holding it together until now. Georges, Macret, Christian, they dash towards the Fiat. Remember, these were people that were smart about UFOs. They were interested in the subject. They all agreed that beforehand, if the engine refuses to start, we're going to hide behind the bushes. The unnamed man runs for the R8. He gets over towards the door. Now remember, there's something big shaking this car. He gets over towards the door. And a beam of blinding white light comes from the hilltop. It's shone on them. They all hurl themselves flat in the ground. A few moments later, it goes dark again. They get into their cars, and they won't start. But remember, they parked the cars so they could get out quickly. The cars are facing downhill. They can push these cars. And that's what they do. They push the cars. The cars start rolling. They pop the clutch. The engine of the Fiat starts. The engine of the R8 starts. Let's focus in on the R8. Alain Lecca is in control. As soon as he gets the R8 going, he travels for just a little distance and he looks back. About 5 or 6 meters from the car, there's a silhouette identical to the one they had seen coming down the track. And then a second one, and a third. 2 to 3 meter tall beings. Alain gets the car going again. Stops again. Another 10 or 15 meters down the road. He kind of gets the feeling that these 3 beings have stopped. Alain puts the car in reverse and backs up towards them. He gets within 5 meters of the nearest of them. And now they start moving forward again. They're moving in this weird, jerky step motion. Alain opens the car door. He puts 1 foot on the road, turns back, and shouts at them 3 times. Are you good or are you bad? The creature that's closest to the car, he turns and looks to the creature on the left. It's kind of left and behind. And those weird whistles happen again between these 3. They're having a conversation. And then these 3 creatures start their advance again. A little more quickly than before, it seemed to Lecca. He gets in the car and drives off. Makes it about 50 meters down the road. Stops again. Looks again to see whether they're following. And they're not. They're not. He finds this little small level area to do an about turn, waits for a few moments, and then races towards the tables that they were at with his headlights on, his windows up. This man has either recovered his nerve or lost his mind. But either way, Lecca has decided he's going to communicate with these things. His companion, the unnamed man, crazed with fear, clutching at Lecca's jacket. Lecca gets to the tables and sees nothing. There are no entities, no red lights, but that white glow is still there. But now the fear sets in with Alain Lecca. He's scared that he's not seeing anything. He's kind of visualizing these creatures. He's imagining them hiding somewhere close, ready to pounce on him if he gets out of the car. He's driving slowly around the tabled area. Headlights, the brights shining. Brings it around. And then drives off. He's seen nothing. He goes to the city below, Draguignan, drops his friend off, and then comes back up alone. the guts of this man. This time, Elaine Lacka sees nothing. Even the white glow has vanished. The only thing that's there is this smell. He said it smelled like burnt insulation tape varnish. Just the smell. In Lacka's own words, remember, he hit he hit the car into reverse. He put the car into reverse, I should say. And that caused the reverse lights to kick on, so he got a pretty good look at these creatures. His description of these creatures is as follows. Height in excess of 2 meters. Red one-piece suit, non-phosphorescent. There is a ventral light inside the suit. It's the light that gives the suit its red collar. The head, or helmet, is square, with 1 or 2 luminous rectangular openings at the level of the eyes. The gait is slow, as though mechanical. One of the entities has no helmet, but it seemed to be wearing a mask, like a gas mask type, or something mobile, perhaps a veil in front of the face. Now let's talk about the other car. Georges Macret, Christian Benson in the passenger seat. They left as quickly as possible, did not return. They had driven about 100 meters. They were negotiating a turn on the road. For a fraction of a second, they see a set of red glowing legs cross the road in 2 strides. Just legs. As soon as these legs cross the road, their headlights go out and their dashboard light. The engine keeps going. They take a sharp right turn into the darkness. They avoid a crash. A few moments later, the headlights, the dashboard light, they come on again, one after the other. Georges Macret, he continues on. Christian Benson is so scared, he slumped down below the dashboard. He's hiding. 150 meters or so down the road, they get to a level parking area. Georges Macret stops there. He's going to wait for Lacka in the other car. He thinks they're following, not realizing that at this time, Lacka's heading back. Macret doesn't have the courage to go back up the hill. He only waits about 10 seconds. Can you blame him? Macret has just seen amazing, impossible things. You look over, your friend is hiding underneath the dashboard. He's not even in the seat. What else are you supposed to do? He starts off again and races down towards the city of Draguignan. They get about a kilometer down the road whenever they see the red legs again. This time they're coming from the right-hand side, rapidly descending from this very steep, shrub-covered slope toward the road. The Fiat is past the red legs. Now remember, only Georges Macret is talking right now. Christian Benza is out of his mind in fear. All of a sudden, the car is thrown off sideways at a right angle to the road. It didn't hit anything. It's just an invisible force has thrown this car sideways on the road. And then, by itself, the car moves back into the spot. It's situated correctly on the road. Now, this Fiat was doing about 60 kilometers an hour at the time. The road is straight. There's no gravel. Something walloped this car, put it sideways, and then put it back correctly. Finally, they make it outside of Draguignan. And they waited about 15 or 20 minutes for the other car. And then finally, Alain Lecca and the unnamed man arrive. And they go off to tell a friend. And that's the end of the tale. One of the most amazing UFO encounter tales I've ever heard. Definitely the most frightening. Were the creatures that this group saw, were they biological? Were they robotic? Some mix of the two? Were the disembodied red legs some sort of drone? Some sort of creature akin to the Fresno Nightcrawler? Be this true. Be this a hoax. It's definitely fascinating. I have done a bit of digging. I have found online who I believe to be one of the people in this story. And I am reaching out. I would love to hear more about this. I don't think this is a hoax. There's too much going on. There's too many points of this story that can get confused. There's too many witnesses. I think what we have here is a very, very frightening case that deserves further investigation. Thank you so much for joining us again this week on Strange Pathways. Please head on over to our Facebook page. We are going to have a lot of images from the cases we talked about today up on Facebook. Check us out on TikTok and Instagram, Strange Pathways Podcast. You can also reach out to us at strangepathwaysmail@gmail.com. Thank you once again. I see the subscriber numbers increasing. I see those listener numbers increasing. And I thank you so much. Get out there. Tell a family member. Tell a friend. You know of this great podcast. Talk about us on forums. Talk about us on message boards. Get the word out. That's going to help the show grow. I'll be honest. I'd love to do this for a living. This is... honestly, behind this microphone, this is where I'm the happiest. Thank you so much again for listening. Take care of yourselves and each other.